Hi all, and welcome to Brick by Brick, the podcast for the property development industry. My name is Ian Humphreys and I am a co-founder of Brickflow and one of your hosts. Each week we'll be speaking to experts and stakeholders from across the property development sector. We'll share ideas and advice on how to get ahead of the game as a developer, as well as trends and insights from across the sector. The series is designed for all experience levels. Whether you're just starting out on your property development journey or you're an industry veteran, we'll handpick topics with universal appeal so we can all continue to learn. We'd also love you to share the podcast with your development industry network. Our mission through Brickflow and the podcast is to make development finance better. Every year, somewhere between a third and a half of all SME property developers cite lack of finance as the main reason they don't build more. It's only through raising awareness of the problems that developers face that we will improve. The more people will hear this, the more the industry will pay attention and the better it will become for all of us. So please share as far and wide as you can. We also really want you to join the conversation. If you have any suggestions for future topics or guests or thoughts on any of the podcasts, we'd love to hear from you. Get in touch through LinkedIn or Facebook or email us at podcast@brickflow.com. I hope you enjoyed the show. This week, I'm delighted to welcome Lloyd Girardi and Andi Cooke from Whitebox Property Solutions. For those that don't know, the way I think of Whitebox is a company that teaches other people how to do their business the way they do it. They provide masterclasses both online and through conferences to aspiring property developers. The idea of sharing your intellectual property with others is not something most businesses look to do, but it's something that has become more popular as a business idea in the recent past. With everyone having so much access to information online, it seems there are no longer any secrets. So why not share all that you know? So the main reason I wanted to get Lloyd and Andi on the show is for them to talk about their business model, but also to talk about the phenomenal success they've had and what the future holds for them. So welcome, Lloyd and Andi.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks for having us.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, cheers, Ian.
No problem. Okay, guys. So we like to start off with just understanding the journey that you've been on as individuals, how you've come to where you are today. So if you can start a bit about talking about your background, your career today, what attracted you to property and why you love what you do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for me, to start with, I've always wanted to, going back to my childhood, I've always wanted my own business. All throughout school, I kind of just wanted to do something for myself, but I never really knew what I wanted to do. I kind of got trapped in the job cycle as well by leaving school because I didn't know what to do. I just went along with kind of what my mum was saying and telling me to go and get a job and get security. All my friends went off to university, still didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just said, well, I want to go traveling instead of going to uni as well. So I went traveling, again, just went to New Zealand, Australia, and had a really good time, to be honest. But the whole time I was out, I was thinking, right, what business I'm going to start when I get back? And I kind of wrote a load of ideas down, came back to the UK with the whole intention of starting a business. And then I think fear of starting a business got in the way. I didn't know how to start a business, so the easiest thing to do at that point was to not start a business. So I got a job. I went back to kind of the restaurant I worked at before I left, and then my mum got me a job at Taylor Wimpey. So it was George Wimpey at the time when I was with them, and I was in the sales show home selling houses, and that was my first kind of proper job, if you want to sort of call it that. And I quite enjoyed it actually because I was in the show home on my own. So in a way, I felt like I was kind of doing my own. It wasn't my own business, obviously, but I had to sort of look after myself. I had to decide what I'm doing on a day, and I wasn't really told what to do from someone there every day. So I quite enjoyed that. After that was sort of 2006, 2007. I joined a mortgage broker who were working alongside Taylor Wimpey. And I kind of enjoyed that part, but it was in an office. Towards 2007, sort of mid 2007, I got made redundant and then went to sell LED lights for a living. So I did that for quite a while, but it was 8 years worth of working for someone else. And the whole dream of starting a business just faded.
Yeah.
But it was until it was November 2013 that the whole dream of starting a business came back. And the only reason it came back is on the 4th of November, I actually lost my dad from a brain tumor. And then sort of 56 days later, my granddad died from dementia. So it's kind of two blows in the family. Really thought it put a perspective on my life, really. So I know Andy from, my wife's cousin is Andy. So we met at family parties, and I knew he had a business. And I thought, well, the best way to start a business is by finding out how you start a business. So I started talking to Andy about how to start a business. I was selling lights. So the business I wanted to start was an LED lighting company or lighting design company, because that's what I knew. Yeah. And it just kind of stemmed from there, really. And Andy was looking into property investing at the time. So I was talking to him about starting a lighting business. He was looking at property investing, and he was kind of just gauging what I was doing, I think, at that time. And then about a couple of months, or maybe a month later, Andy approached me and said, look, I've been looking into property investing, and I know you want to start a business. Why don't we sort of look at investing in property together? And that's kind of where it started. We went on a 3-day property seminar. I learned a hell of a lot in that session on those 3 days. Even though I had a buy-to-let property myself before, I didn't know you could borrow other people's money and do property. And it was just an absolute eye-opening experience. And that's kind of where it started. And that was 2014. And everything we've done to date has started from those 3 days. And it's just been an amazing sort of past 6 years now.
Yeah. Are you still in touch with the people who ran that course?
Yeah, we still sort of get mentored by them. Not as a major thing, but as a minor sort of side mentorship, we still keep in touch. Absolutely.
Cool. Andy, what about yourself?
I suppose I'm a little bit younger than Lloyd, as you perhaps noticed. So that shouldn't be so funny, Ian. You shouldn't laugh so much at that.
Sorry.
Yeah. No, but Lloyd's 10 years younger than me, so I had a bit of a head start on him. But yeah, in a way, a similar sort of background. I'm not necessarily formally educated myself. I did go to college for a couple of years, but never really ended up finishing the course. I was doing sort of technology, manufacturing, engineering, sort of more practical side stuff. And like I say, never really finished it. Then I decided that an influence in my life at the time had done a couple of ski seasons. He was a few years older than me, so I really liked the idea of that. So similar to Lloyd, I did a few ski seasons around Europe. I went over and just rocked up at one day almost, and just sort of got a job there, but low end, dishwashing, all that kind of stuff. And that culminated into me doing a few of those. I used to come back for a couple of months, earn a bit of money, go back and do another one. I did summers, winters. I was in sort of Marbella, as well as the ski seasons. I was in Italy and France. Did that for about 5 years in the end. But actually formed a really good work ethic doing that. And, I was, because I didn't go with loads of money, I had to earn what I needed to earn when I was there. So I was the one up at 7 o'clock in the morning with a shovel at the early seasons, clearing the drives every time it snowed to the businesses and all that kind of stuff. But like I say, it gave me a really good work ethic. When I came back from there, I stayed here for a year, met my now wife, and then we decided after a year to go on a world trip. So we went to all sorts of countries and had a combi van in Australia, all that kind of stuff. And like Lloyd said, really a bit like him, when I was away, I had this sort of burning ambition to use that work ethic and sort of start my own business, but I had no idea. A very similar story, but completely different. 10 years apart, but we're actually very similar. Yeah, when I came back, I literally just went into doing warehouse work on the agency in my early 20s. And because of my work ethic, I got spotted quite quickly within the companies. They employed me and then promoted me to going out and fitting. Well, I was always quite good with carpentry side of things, but never again formally trained. So I got working for a library fitting company, and then they put me out on the road running my own team in my early 20s, sort of fitting counters and all that sort of things in libraries. And I was, even in those early days, I started sort of running teams, like I say, of a couple of people with me. And then I worked for an audio-visual company, again, set building. So again, it was carpentry based, but it wasn't sort of house building carpentry based. And, all of the big conferences where you get the sets at the back of them, I simplified their processes. They outsourced a lot of the work they did, and I built a workshop. And, I like problem solving, and I saved them a lot of money bringing those processes in house. I did that for a few years. I got a bit bored of that, again working for somebody else. And it was in 2007 that I just had a bit of a run-in with a boss, to be honest. And overnight, I basically just said, "Look, I'm not going to do this anymore." And I left, and I just had my second child at the time. My wife was on maternity leave, and I kind of had to have that walk-in. We just lived a very normal life, lived in a Barrett house, and I had to do the walk-in and sort of tell her I haven't really got a job anymore, And I was 30 at the time, and I just said, "Well, look, I've always wanted to start a business," and that for me was the impetus I needed. And I just started really low level. I just got myself I started with a car, I think, and then got a van a bit later on, and just did kitchens, bathrooms, whatever. I was a bit of a yes man. Anything that came up. Have you done that before? Yeah, I've done it. And then I'd work out how to do it, sort of thing.
Later,
yeah, that's it. And but my ethic and my work ethic and in my head, I was never going to leave that job not being perfect. So if it wasn't perfect the first time, I'd do it again at my own cost, and I'd be there until 11 o'clock at night if I had to be, and that actually gave me a really good reputation really quickly, because I've found out since that not a lot of people have got that kind of work ethic.
Absolutely.
So that I got some really quite decent sort of well-paid jobs with people who wanted that kind of quality of work, if you like. And I was learning all the time, because the best way to learn, as you'll know, is throw yourself in at something you can't actually do and work out how to do it and hit all the problems along the way. And that's the quickest way to learn how to do something, So 2007, set up the building company. 2009 was our first extension. So, it was all just me basically before then, doing my own control of everything I did. And that was a big deal for me, because it was more like a project management role. Then I was getting bricklayers in, electricians, carpenters, and it wasn't just me doing what I could control anymore. So that was a learning curve in itself. Then in 2012, I built my first house, which was the one I'm sitting in now, actually, because it's the house I live in. It was a self-build. Oh. And, that wasn't actually that long ago. And I'm the build part of this combination. And then in 2014 is when Lloyd said that, he actually helped me. As he said, we were sort of talking at family parties, and I knew he did LED lighting, and he offered to help me put I was doing quite fancy lighting in my self-build. You want to make it look impressive. So he helped me with some of the design on that. And, he helped me even with some of the installation. Although if you ever met Lloyd, you'll know he's only about 3 foot, so I had to get some extra tall ladders. And I think that quite impressed me, to be honest. I saw that he was willing to sort of put himself out to help me and all that kind of stuff. And as he said, I watched him for a couple of months, watched how he reacted, around the self-build and things like that. And then, once all that died down, I went back to doing extensions for a while. And then when the opportunity came up, probably getting on for a year later, basically, I thought that lighting design company that he was going to do was a really crap idea. And, so he was going to call it, what were you going to call it?
Quintessential lighting design.
Quintessential lighting and design. So, I told him that was never going to fly. So we ought to do something proper. So, so we set up, and then, the rest is kind of history. We set up doing a couple of HMOs and whatever. And with 6 years later, we are where we are.
When you started, what was the original pitch? What was the idea? Was it just, let's do some property investment, see where it goes? Or was it, when did it become, okay, we've done a few, let's sort of teach other people?
When we sort of attended that 3-day property seminar, kind of understanding how to do property, they didn't teach the development side. They didn't teach how to do a new build. But that's kind of where we looked at our skills. I worked for Taylor Wimpey, which is a new build developer, and Andy had just done his house, which was a new build. So we kind of, I remember for the first 2 weeks after that seminar, I was pretty much around Andy's house the whole every evening, just working out what to do. We said, well, why can't we build our own portfolio? Everyone's going out trying to find these below market value properties and argue with each other about the viewings and all sorts. So we kind of just said, let's just build our own portfolio. And why can't we? And we questioned that pretty much for 2-3 weeks. Andy had found a plot of land in Northampton where we're based, and we just sort of looked at it and said, well, and pretty much every question is, well, why can't we do that? Why can't we do this? And the only way to find out is by doing it. And we even said, look, there's about £270,000 profit in this deal from what we think, because we didn't even know how to do the analysis properly, but from what we thought, there's about £270,000 profit in the deal. We did say to each other, look, if it comes to it and we only make 50 grand, are we still prepared to do it? And we're like, well, yeah, of course we are. And then we said, well, even if it makes nothing, are we still prepared to do it? And we both agreed that, yeah, it's the kind of experience. We've got to do something. And that was the key to everything. And looking back, all the deals we've done so far, that will always be the best deal we've ever done because it started everything going forward. We did do it slightly different to a lot of people because no one was teaching how to do developments. We had to find out a lot of the stuff ourselves. One of the ways we did it was we borrowed all the money from private investors to buy the land, which isn't uncommon. A lot of people do that anyway. But what was sort of different at the time is we borrowed all the money from development finance on peer-to-peer crowdfunding.
Right.
And it was Funding Circle at the time. And they were just doing development finance. So we were one of the first to try it. And that kind of got the attention of a lot of people around us in the communities we were in. And that's kind of where the training started because people wanted to know how we did a new build development as our first ever deal. And it was for 8 houses. So it wasn't like a small 1 or 2 house development. It was 8 houses. So we borrowed about £750,000 in total and owed about £810,000, which when I first started, I was earning 15 grand selling lights. So I had no money to my name and Andy didn't really have anything. So we had to borrow everything. But that's where it started. And we started teaching people how we did that one deal.
Yeah.
And then every sort of 6 months, it kind of progressed more as we learned more on the sites we were doing. We just added more into the training we were giving. And we never set out to become this sort of big training company teaching people development. We just wanted to sort of give back to people that kind of didn't know how we did the deal in the first place.
It's kind of like a perfect storm of opportunity because Funding Circle obviously don't fund development anymore, but at the time they're probably coming into the market. And as you say, most lenders probably wouldn't have backed you, but the fact is they needed deals and you needed lending and you kind of found each other at the right time, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. There's never going to be a perfect time to get into developments, but there's always a solution to do it once you're in it. So just if anyone's like listening to this and they're thinking about it, a lot of people say, I'll do it next year. Why are you waiting next year? You're wasting a year.
Yeah. It's something you touched on at the start, but do you think that a lot of what you're doing with other people is kind of getting, half of it is almost getting them over the fear of starting their own business? Is that like a big part of the battle?
Yeah. So
it's massive.
One of the things that we concentrate on as well, not just the teaching of the developments, is we're very much mindset kind of orientated. Like we've changed as people over the last 6 years as well, in terms of mindset, and we've now got the business mentality that the challenges we've been through has made us stronger, but we now pass that on to people starting to get into it. So we're very honest and open about the realities of developments. We tell people what can go wrong just as much as we tell people what the rewards can be.
So do you think when, what do you think it is when you speak to people? Like what's the thing that people hear that kind of resonates most and makes them want to become a developer? Or, how many people, let's say you have 100 people that you speak to, how many of those people will just never get it done? And how many people actually go, do you know what, these guys are speaking the truth? Let's move forward with this.
I think from my point of view that, if people come on the course, and as Lloyd says, we've evolved. When it first started, it was literally just because I was spending all my time doing one-to-one tours around our deals because people were interested in what we're doing. And it was Lloyd who said, well, let's formalise this, put it in the hotel and whatever else. And it was just about that deal. Then you go through the phase of, you've got other deals that come into it. And, a lot of other trainers will teach you the sort of rose tinted side of things. And as Lloyd was saying there, what we've definitely evolved into now is we know that a lot of the power is actually showing you what's going to go wrong and all the problems you're going to hit, just like I did when I first started out with Redbox and all those kind of things. And from our point of view, if somebody comes who's perhaps doing single buy-to-lets, HMOs or whatever else, they go on a training course, quite often they'll get shown the pretty side of it over a couple of days, and sold on to another level or whatever else. And then they realise that they can't do it, or that they haven't got the time to do it, or they didn't realise it was going to be that much hard work. We want to give them the positivity all weekend. We want to show them that it can be done. We want to show them case studies. We want to show people that have done it. But we also want to be really real with them and show them that it is going to take some time, some effort. It is going to be harder than they thought. But if they come on the course and they see all that and they realise it and they get all the positivity from the weekend, whatever, but then they realise that their developments perhaps isn't for them, and maybe they should stick with commercial conversions, or they should stick with HMOs or whatever. Actually, that's been a real win for us, and it's a real win for the client as well, the person who's come on the course. Because it may have cost them, they may have spent £1,500, £2,000, whatever the cost is to come and have that experience. But they'll have got a lot, even going back to HMOs and single buy to lets. A lot of that's transferable. They'll be better property investors because of it. And more importantly than all that, they're not going to get themselves into a deal that's going to trip them up and cost them tens of thousands of pounds when they're not really committed to it. So if they go through the training and don't go into developments because they're educated enough to realise maybe it wasn't for them, that's real value for education, that is, as well as the ones who go on and absolutely smash it and go and do developments for the rest of their lives.
Downsides in property development are huge, right? So you need to go into it with your eyes wide open.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. So in terms of how the business works, obviously you two are the main guys. How does it break down between you? Who's the strategy, the big picture thinker? Who's the? I think I know the answer to who does the graft, but how does it break down between you two guys? Who's responsible for what?
Yeah, I certainly do the graft.
Yeah.
The bigger picture thinking side of it is probably more. I come up with about 1,000 ideas and about 2 of them stick, as Andy likes to say. So I'm constantly sort of thinking of different things to do. Sometimes I think too many ideas before I've concentrated on one, but that's just who I am. So one of the things we mentioned is obviously over the last 6 years we have sort of found out kind of who we are as people as well. Yeah. And I don't want to say it's like cliche kind of thing, but it has evolved and we've developed as people. But we did the wealth dynamics. We heard about that, and I did that, and I found out that I was a creator. Which, looking back and then sort of seeing how I was since I was a kid, I've always had that creative side where I'm trying to think of something different, or I find something that works and I think, well, how can I make that better? And that's kind of how we sort of work together really well as well. So we'll come up with the ideas, we'll talk about the ideas together. Andy's great at seeing things through as well. So we've now learned over probably 4 years ago that I have these ideas and then I need someone to help pull it through. And then we've got a team around us as well that kind of fill in all the gaps. So it's really it's been an amazing sort of journey so far. And obviously we're just at the beginning of where we want to go as well. So yeah, we do work well together.
So my take on that, now he's done all of his bit, is I like to call him Lloyd Llewellyn Bowen, because he's like the cushion fluffer of the two of us, Right. He goes and I do all the hard work, build all the houses, do all that side of it, and then he goes and glorifies it with a couple of throws over here and there and whatever else, and then he takes all the credit, So dives in at the last 10% of the work to get 100% of the credit, sort of thing, Yeah.
Cushions are the most important thing in a development, so. And that's one of the sessions we teach.
Lloyd's the window dressing.
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So how big is the operation at the moment?
So from the development side, we've completed about £20 million worth of deals from a standing start. It's about 166 units.
Wow.
Which, again, we don't just teach people how to do it. We physically do it ourselves.
That's what I was interested in, is still, day to day, how involved are you in it, in the sort of nitty gritty?
About 4%. So I don't get too involved. But that's where I focus on the training and the social media side. So a lot of people see me on sort of Facebook and social media. Andy looks after the developments that we've currently got going on. And obviously he's there for the training as well. So we've got that good balance going on. But we've also got a project manager in place who we've brought in with expertise. So he worked for Taylor Wimpey for 12 years as a site manager, and he looks after. So at the moment, we've got 5 sites on the go with 86 properties being built, and he looks after all 5 of those sites.
Right.
So it's quite. We've got it kind of systemized now, and that's taken time. We've had to learn the process as well.
We leverage the team a lot more, and I look after the team, and then the team looks after the development. So even I don't get into the nitty gritty as much now, but yeah, Lloyd's definitely removed from that, and he's looking at the stuff in the future, and he's looking at the like he says, the training side of it more. And then we actually run with SPVs, so special purpose vehicles. We've actually got 18 different businesses now. So some of those are just developments, so a business for a development, but some of them are things like we've got a sourcing company, Purple Box, we've got the build company, Red Box, we've got the training company, Whitebox, we've got another development company with a site for Yellow Box, we've got Green Box is a lettings agency, so the ones we keep, they look after that. So but each one of them's got their own team and staff members, and I basically kind of sort of oversee all of those and make sure everyone's happy and all of that. And
so your ops.
Yeah, kind of, yeah. Work with, and then at the other end, we've got like really high level FDs and accountants and people who are much cleverer than either of us two. And, so I'm the sort of middleman who will be dealing with them at one minute and then relaying that down to the team. So, yeah, but I kind of try and protect Lloyd from that, because it gives him the freedom then to be thinking of some of the stuff we'll be doing in the future, whilst I'm looking at, I'm sweeping up the messes left in the past,
Yeah, I'm the fluffer, he's the sweeper.
Yeah, fluffer and sweeper. Good.
We're going to get some t-shirts. We're getting t-shirts made up.
In terms of the training now, like how big's that? So you've got an idea on the development side, like how many courses you running? I mean, obviously with lockdown and what have you, have you switched online a bit more? Like how's it working?
Yeah, so we probably teach about 500 to 600 people a year.
Right.
So and online as well. That's something that's new for 2020. So we have been thinking about it for about 2 years to go online, but because we like the face-to-face social side of meeting people and talking to them, like I say, face-to-face, we never did it, but lockdown kind of forced us to create something online. So it was quite easy to do because we've kind of been thinking about it for a while. My kind of expertise on what I look at is the land sourcing side. So I know how to find deals. So straight away, I sort of created the Land Sourcing Academy, which is a 9-week academy. It takes you from how to find a site, where to look for, how to analyze a deal, how to offer on the deal, how to secure it, the planning aspects, all the way through to actually having that site as under your possession or selling it on as a source deal. I wanted to do it as a step-by-step 9-week program because I knew lockdown was going to be intense and knew people were going to be in their house and needing to do something online. So I created it purposely that people could take 9 weeks to do it. So it was very step-by-step, and that went down really, really well. Probably 5 weeks, 6 weeks into that, we created the project management masterclass, which Andy and our site manager or project manager Nick run. And that's a 50 videos, all kind of as a resource to go back to and check about what's happening on site or how you control a site, all the aspects of construction methods, everything you need in terms of funding, drawdowns. From managing a site, it's the project side that a lot of people sometimes don't have, and they outsource that. But the one thing we thought that would be good for is you can either use it to project manage for yourself, or you understand what your project manager is doing. So obviously it's your site at the end of the day, so you've got to make sure you're aware of what's happening. Those are the kind of education courses we do. We mentor people, so we probably mentor about 60 to 80 people a year on a regular monthly basis. And then we go to places like this behind me is Croatia. So the villa in Croatia, we go to Croatia and Bali once a year and take 20 businesses out to each one to work on their business as well. So not just property related, but just business in general, because that's what we both love as well.
Cool.
So it's grown since the first course and teaching people how to build the 8 houses.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I must say, when it sort of comes up, the sort of online courses, everyone's like very complimentary of you guys. The conversation normally goes something along the lines of, oh, I've done a couple of courses, I've done, this one, I've done that one, and I've done Whitebox. Your name always comes up, and everyone will say that yours is the best. And I'm not just saying that because we're talking now, but people generally do seem to love what you do. So it's like a really interesting model. And I mean, other than obviously you're charging people for the courses, is there other bits of business you do together? Do you JV together, or is it really just that kind of arm's length? Here's how you do it, and off you go, and I'll help you along the way? Or do you actually try and work together as well on deals?
With the delegates, you mean? So, so we do that. We don't do that with everyone, obviously, because a joint venture and what we teach people is that it's like a relationship at the end of the day, isn't it? You shouldn't just jump in and joint venture with anybody. And I think that gets talked a lot about in property. You find someone with a plot of land, I'll just joint venture with them, or you find a builder, just joint venture with them. And, what we teach people is that, you have to have the same sort of vision. Like me and Lloyd are obviously very aligned with our vision. We will work together forever, and we've found a working relationship and friendship and brotherhood, we'll call it, that will go on forever, and we will do everything. What we do, everything opportunity that comes in, we make sure we do it together, so we're aligned like that. But not everyone's going to find that with just someone they walk by in the street. What we do get, though, is that on our sort of our flagship course, like the 3-day Property Developer Secrets, we've had people who meet in that room and go off, and they didn't know each other before that, and then they form business partnerships and go and do sites together, and they have a same version of what we've got. We will consider working with the people who come through that. We probably wouldn't do that unless they're on the mastermind. That would be a sort of prerequisite for us, because then we know we've got sort of regular contact with them, and we can help guide them more and make sure everything's on track. And that's the monthly sort of check-in one. And even then, it just, it depends on the deal, it depends on the people, it depends on where we're at the time, what's needed in the deal, whether it's going to be worthwhile to everyone. And that's not just us, we wouldn't want to come in and sort of take a proportion of the profit, if you like, which made it not worth it to them, because obviously then, it wouldn't be worth them doing it. So, so everything's got to align, if you like, for that. But it's certainly something that we do. We're on one actually, 24 flats in Wellingborough. It's an old conversion build, an old shoe factory, and that was a couple of our delegates who came through the training who did that. They're both full-time professionals. One's a dentist, one's an IT consultant. They came out to Bali last year. They had this deal, they were talking about it, and they asked us if we'd consider doing it with them. In fact, that's it behind Lloyd there, and big old building. And we decided we would. We're using my building company to build it as well, and it all just worked, all slotted together. And it gives them the comfort that they know that they can go and do their full-time jobs and know that it's going to happen. It gives them the experience going through it with us, if you like, and we can control it and make sure that it's going to, be in profit at the end of it and things like that. So, there's a good example of where it has worked.
Is that a ground-up scheme or PD?
No, conversion. So we purchased it with 24 apartments approved with planning.
Right.
And we actually we've amended the planning as well. It's still 24 units, but it wasn't the best of design, so we've gone in and changed it a little bit, put like dormer extensions on the back. But it's pretty much full conversion.
Cool. And then just on that point, when you're doing your deals, do you find you're mainly going into planning approved deals, or do you work planning as well?
We tend to buy sites by mitigating the risk as much as possible. And that's how we teach people as well. So if it hasn't got planning, we'll offer subject to planning, unless it's permitted development and we know we can get it. If it's got planning, obviously we'll pay for it what it's worth. But we generally just pay for the site what it is worth with planning, because if we're buying it subject to, then we're buying it with planning permission, and we're not taking the risk then that it's not going to get planning. So we don't tend to have a preference of what we look for in specifics, but we go into every site with our eyes open and think, like, what's the best way of doing this? Shall we do it? And one thing we've learned over the last few years is if it doesn't make our boat go faster, we're not going to do it. So it's assessing the deal, really.
Okay. One of the things that we're seeing a lot at the moment, I'd be interested in your thoughts on this, but like on the platform, when people search for loans, like what seems to be happening at the moment is people are putting in sort of post-COVID build costs and post-COVID GDVs. So, maybe they're trimming their GDV 5-10%. Their build costs have popped up 5-10%. Perhaps there's a bit of a longer build term as well. And deals are skewed because of that, because the land cost is still a pre-COVID land cost, if you see what I mean. So there's kind of this mismatch in the market of where you've got sellers still looking to achieve what they would have achieved pre-COVID, whereas perhaps savvy developers being a bit more realistic and understanding that actually it's going to cost them more to build, they might not get what they thought at the end. And therefore, the deal's not working because of that. And my own view is that, sort of towards the end of this year, beginning of next year, you'll start to see that kind of drip down into the market of where sellers will start getting that message and perhaps align their thinking. But, how would you deal with that kind of situation? Like, how would you advise your delegates, about around that point?
This is something we've been teaching since the beginning of lockdown. When I first heard about lockdown, I could sense what was going to happen in the market. And it's not saying I predicted it, but I could sense that valuations probably would come down a little bit. There'll be a bit of caution there. Build costs, whether they stay the same or go up a little bit. But what we're saying to people is that the opportunities that are going to come out of this are huge. So you've got to start your pipeline now. So if you're not making offers that are low, you're not going to have that in 6 months' time to go back to. So what we're telling people is, yes, underestimate the GDV, and we kind of always say that anyway. So the end value, don't expect a premium, don't expect it to be the value as it is now. So maybe take 5-10% off. The build costs, again, factor that in. It might be cheaper, it might be the same, it might be more expensive, but the best thing to do on build costs is maybe overestimate it slightly. And then your offer is just put the offer in based on what you can pay, not what they're asking for. Sure. Even if it's 50% lower than what they're asking for, it's not going to sell anyway. So in 6 months' time, when they've realised that those prices may be a bit inflated, then you've got that I kind of put the offer in 6 months ago at a value that is more realistic. So we're always on about pipeline. You've got to build that pipeline now. And if you don't do it today, then you're basically kicking the can down the road each time and not having a decent pipeline to go back to and chase deals up, really.
Yeah. And what are your views on things like overages and deferred land payments, things like that, where perhaps if you do achieve a higher pound per square foot on the exit, the residual land price would have changed. So, do you think that's a good thing that people should be considering?
Yeah, one of the videos I did on our YouTube channel was about offering a 75% overage. So pretty much, I say it's £1 million now. If it does sell for 1.4 million, then I'll give you £300,000. So I'll give you the difference of what I say and what it is at the end. And everyone wins then. The landowner gets 75% of the difference, so the majority of the difference, and we take 25%. So it's in our interest and their interest for us to get maximum value at the end. So we're not trying to get rid of the site and buy it cheap and negotiate that way. We're happy to share the winnings equal proportion to them more than us. So we're happy with overages. We kind of teach that as well, that it's a good strategy to put in place.
Okay. Well, I mean, it'd be a nice time to ask this actually, like from both of you, what is the thing that you look forward to teaching most, or what's the biggest value add, do you think? Do you think, like, when you're in front of people and you think this is something that's really going to like get their attention, like what is that in your courses, do you think that people really enjoy?
I think that by far, I mean, for a start, just to answer that as well, people say to us, the age-old thing, well, why are you teaching? Like, if you're developers, you should be making your money in the developments, and why would you give all your secrets away, and why would you be teaching it and whatever? I think by far we would both say that actually the bit we get out the most value out of personally in our mindset kind of way, in our fulfillment kind of way, is the teaching side of it. That's like that is where we get to see people face to face, watch them and their journeys, change theirs, their families, their kids' lives, and all that kind of stuff by us imparting a bit of knowledge from what we had. And they pay us for it. We don't do it for nothing. We're not that Samaritan based, but so it is an extra income for us. But I can work on sites all day. I can be helping our teams all day, and sometimes that can be really stressful and whatever else is we all know. Then to go away and do even a weekend course where we go up and have a bit of fun with people, and that's one of the reasons why people really enjoy the training, because we don't just sit there and deliver information and force it down people's throats. We have a bit of fun with it because that's the best way for people to intake it and to actually be able to action it. So we really enjoy the style of the way we do it and how we've come about that. And it's changed, like as I always said, it's changed me as a person. I used to be the kind of guy at the back of the room in 2014 when we started doing our property stuff. I wouldn't even put my hand up to ask a question because I was really self-conscious and and all that kind of stuff. And now we're standing in front of hundreds of people and be really outgoing and whatever. So it's really changed me, and that public speaking element's been a gift what I'll have forever now, and I can teach my kids. And in fact, one of my sons, he was really shy and he became head boy at the school he goes to. And because of, I believe some of that is because he saw how his dad had changed and as he was growing up and all that kind of stuff. So I really believe in all that. But I think as well, over the 3-day property development sequence, which me and Lloyd both personally deliver as it stands at the moment, or part of all 3 days. And the Sunday morning, we do a mindset piece, which we sit there. Basically, there's no script to it or anything like that. We sit. They all know us really well by then. We spent a couple of days in front of them, and we actually start on a Sunday morning earlier than we normally would do on a normal day, which is again counterproductive to you think you're getting lay-in, not on our course. And we have like a couple of hours, whatever it takes, 3 hours, whatever. And we literally just sit on stools at the front, and they can ask us anything, how we work together, what pisses us off about each other, what the most valuable lessons we've learned. And that's always such a massive, we're open and honest, and whatever is asked, we'll answer it. And we won't try and like guide it or anything like that. We're just clear and transparent. And the way that always goes, and we get a lot of people come up to us after that session and say, I've never seen anything like that. Never, certainly in a training environment. No, I've never seen anyone be as open and honest about the things that have gone wrong before, and the challenges you had. And that's what we love about it. That we're not there to mislead people or guide people. We're just there to try and give them the best information we can give them to make sure that they get the best results. And quite often that's by our mistakes.
Yeah. They can make informed decisions. What about you, Lloyd? Same?
Yeah, I was going to say exactly the same thing. The mindset session we do. So we teach developments, but the biggest thing to help people is actually change their mind first, because if they haven't changed their mind about developments or anything, they just won't do them, or they'll get stuck. But it's good timing, actually. I'll read it out. It says, from today, hi Lloyd, my offer has been accepted subject to planning amendments. That's why we teach. That is an offer that's been accepted from someone we've taught, and they're just doing the same thing. And she's actually put after that, we have a saying that goes around, which is quite a technical thing, but it's called an OSM. And an OSM is an oh shit moment. So she's just put the office accepted with the planning amendments. Oh shit, what do I do now? And that's that's what I love. I love helping people through that next step, because 6 years ago, me and Andy had to do it ourselves, and we had to fight of every challenge ourselves, where now I know that we're helping people that are feeling how we felt, but they've got the support. So that's why we train. That's one of the biggest sort of benefits as well. And I was going to mention it earlier, but our business model is we want people to make a lot more money than they ever pay us. You go to a cash point, you put a tenner in and you get £100 back. That's the best business you'll ever have.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to be fair, that's why, when I hear about you guys and speaking to you more and understanding your model and how you work, like that kind of draws me to you as well, because that's, it's very similar to our way of thinking in our business. Is, we want to pass on the knowledge. Like every conversation we have, there's some very common problems that come up with funding, and you can just speak to people, they all have the same problems, but I think development's quite a lonely game, isn't it? It's, a lot of developers are on their own. They've perhaps got a lot of data in front of them. They're searching through listings, and they're trying to reach out to people perhaps they don't know, and like you say, in areas perhaps they're not experts in. And I think it can be quite lonely. And so to have what you guys offer, and I know when we speak to people as well, to sort of have that expertise of somebody that's either been through it. Obviously, I've been through it as a developer, but also to know that they're speaking to other people that are having those problems day in, day out. It's just hugely valuable. I think it's an amazing thing that you guys do. Okay, so moving on, in terms of the industry, I mean, for us, a lot of what we're trying to do is bring technology into the industry and improve it. Obviously, you're looking at online now, which is technology, of course. But where do you think the industry? Where do you think there's quick wins for the industry, and where do you think the industry is going to go in the sort of next 5 to 10 years? And I know as well that you have a business that you have involvement in as well, which is kind of very much on the prop tech side. So tell us a bit about that as well.
Yeah, so the kind of future, I think, for property in general is online. Obviously not physically building them, you can never do that, so you're always going to have that. But I think estate agents, I can't see them lasting more than 2-3 years on the high street. I just don't think there's a need for a high street estate agent, because you can search online for the property. Yeah. This, obviously, COVID now has made people do online viewings. So that's going to happen. So I just don't see the point of having a physical agency there. So that's going to change in the property world, I see. But yeah, in terms of what we're doing to sort of see the future as well, is we've got and we've joint ventured and partnered with someone we actually taught 2-3 years ago, who went out to go and try and do the developments herself. She realized that she's creating spreadsheet after spreadsheet, analyzing the deal, and putting a spreadsheet together based on what she thinks is right. And it was just creating a headache for her, and she was analysing sort of 200-300 deals over sort of a month. So it's a lot of deals to analyse. What she realised is her actual background is creating software for multi-million-pound companies to save them multi-millions of pounds as well. So what she was doing as a day job, she realised that she could implement in the development world. So she went off on her own. We didn't know anything about this until sort of she spoke to us later on, and she created my PDA, which is my property developer's assistant, and that is basically a tool online to analyze deals, and it tells you what you need to search for. It tells you what to think about. So you haven't got spreadsheet after spreadsheet anymore. It's all online. It's all cloud-based on your app, on your phone, on your desktop, anywhere you want. In terms of the searching for sites and the analysis, it's all in one place. You can't really go wrong when you're being prompted what to ask and to fill in. And that's where, when we had a demo with yourself and Brickflow, I just saw the kind of similarities there in kind of using my PDA and Brickflow together, because we don't teach people how to get the loans once they found the deal. We teach them the initial part is, right, this is a deal, this is how much you should be paying for it. And apps like that will just help the industry simplify things and speed things up, which is, again, the government want houses being built and they want them being built quicker. So if we can help the initial part of finding the deals and speeding that part up, you'll be on site quicker, which means the houses should get built quicker. The only other thing we need to change is the planning side. So that needs to be a bit more data orientated and a tick box exercise to get planning through very quickly.
I agree. I think the planning side, and there is actually some interesting planning tech businesses that I'm hearing about. One of the guys that's involved in Brickflow is actually involved in a planning app as well, which looks really interesting. I mean, it's very early stages, but what I think is interesting for me is it's quite a long chain of property development. There's so many different specialist parts. I think to have one that can do all of it is quite unrealistic. But if you have quite a seamless interaction between multiple platforms, you can kind of get from A to B much quicker than what you can at the moment. And I think that is definitely the future. So we should definitely explore that further to try and put the two together. I think as well, like the Conservative government, we've got another 4.5 years of this Parliament, and I mean they're hugely supportive of the construction industry. And I think just the mess that we're in economically with, obviously COVID, then there's Brexit. I mean, construction is the perfect way for us to kind of come out the other side and build our way out of it. Build, as Boris says. So I really do think the next 4.5 years is certainly, at least the next 4.5 years is going to be really good for the industry, for everyone involved.
Absolutely.
So 10 years from now, it'd be fully automated. We'll be living in printed houses, and where do we go?
I think it's going to be crazy times in 10 years' time. We tend to think 5 years in front. So we kind of think, well, where do we want to be in 5 years? And then we'll keep sort of adding to that 5 year every year. But yeah, I don't know where it's going to go in 10 years' time. It's interesting to kind of think about it, really.
How do you think the impact of COVID might work with the industry in the next sort of months and years? Do you think people are going to be searching for more space? Outside space is going to be, much more in demand, working from home? How's that going to change the way that you look for sites and build?
I definitely think there's opportunities that have come out of the whole COVID situation. Obviously, people worked from home for 3-4 months. Which has forced people not to have an office, or not forced, but they've made the decision that they don't need an office. Really, it's made that decision for them, which in turn will allow offices to be vacant, which will then allow for property to be created. Vacant offices, certainly under permitted development at the moment, that is something you can do to convert straight away. I also think that the whole Boris announcement, not wants to be really closed down the whole construction industry. Obviously, it was frowned upon to be on the site during the lockdown, but there's nothing actually sort of solid to say that you can't be on site, you can't construct, you can't build. So he is, and the government are pushing for houses to be built as well.
Cool. Okay, guys. Well, listen, I think that's us coming to the end for today. So thank you both very much, to Lloyd and to Andy, for joining us. Really good to learn about your business. I think the way you do it is unique, and the way that people talk about it is very complimentary. And I think you just got to keep doing what you're doing, because the SME property development space is really where we need to attack the housing shortage that we have in the UK. So yeah, thanks again, guys, and catch up soon.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, cheers, Ian. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Brick by Brick, the podcast for the property development industry. I think the biggest takeaway for me from Lloyd and Andy today was to not let fear get in the way of what you want to do. Both of the guys talked about how they'd always wanted to set a business up, but it was fear that had stopped them. Andy also talked about his fear of public speaking, and how by just doing it and confronting it, he's now happy speaking in front of hundreds of people. And I think that's the great thing about property. In a lot of industries, you have to have specialist knowledge and experience before you can set up a business that has a chance of succeeding. But with property, that isn't the case. Sure, it helps, but you can fit property investment and development around a full-time job. You can get friends and family to help. There are very low barriers to entry, and your risk is also low. If you can't sell the properties, then you can rent them. And unless you've bought very badly or managed the project horrendously, you should come out at least flat. So what is stopping you? Anyway, we'll be back again soon with another episode alongside other industry insiders sharing their own property journeys, as well as their tips and tricks to help you get ahead in the property development industry. If you've enjoyed this show, we'd really appreciate it if you could leave us a review and share the podcast with your property industry peers. And remember to get in touch about this topic or any future topic by emailing us at podcast@brickflow.com. Until next time, take care.